this new QUAD ESL 2912X runs back in history to the very first QUAD electrostatic loudspeaker, which was produced for the reason that Peter Walker, the head of QUAD at that time, he had a corner ribbon speaker, which was very well selling, but he felt that he could do better in terms of clarity, mid-range performance, and basically what he wanted to do was get rid of the box. Now, there had been electrostatic speakers before. An electrostatic speaker works very differently to a moving coil speaker. It is basically a very, very light diaphragm, which is attracted and repulsed from a charged plate. Now, previous electrostatic loudspeakers had always been single-ended. In other words, there was a charged plate with the diaphragm suspended in front. And because they were what we call single-ended, there was only one plate, it meant that the distortion increased as the diaphragm moved further away from the plate. So it really wasn't any good for producing bass. In fact, was mainly used as high-frequency elements in speakers with moving coil bass units. Now, Peter Walker worked out that if you use two plates, perforated plates in this case, either side of the diaphragm, then it became what we call push-pull, and the distortion disappeared. Now, that sounds very simple. It's actually quite difficult to work out how to make this a full-range speaker, and also how to keep the linearity of the movements of the diaphragm accurate with regard to the music signal. But after spending several years building many, many prototypes, he eventually produced what we now know as the QUAD ESL 57. 57 because it was first shown to the public in 1957, and it was a groundbreaking design. He then went on to refine the process, because the ESL 57 was produced in the days when only mono was available. So it was designed for use in the home, one loudspeaker across the corner of a room usually. And when stereo came in, yes, a lot of people bought a second one in order to marry up with the first to produce stereo, but that, for Peter, that wasn't an entirely satisfactory arrangement, because the imaging of the ESL 57 with two of them wasn't as precise as he would like it. So he then started looking at how do we make a loudspeaker with a point source. And he found that by arranging the diaphragm into concentric circles of conductivity, that he could then apply a delay line, an electrical delay line, to make the loudspeaker behave like a point source. Now, the advantage of a point source is that you are really not aware of the loudspeaker at all. That the images are produced between, around, and behind the speakers perfectly naturally as they were recorded. And of course, that is what you want in the home. You want something that sounds completely natural, where the loudspeakers practically disappear. And this leads us on to this speaker, which is a progression on from Peter Walker's development, which was at that time called the ESL 63. We're now obviously in the new millennium, and this one, the 2912X, is our latest development of his practical application of his theory. Now, we've produced this in a matte black finish in order to give the impression when it's in the home that it is in fact a disappearing loudspeaker. But there is some lighting in case it appears too oppressive, so we have discrete lighting at the base that can be controlled in terms of brightness or switched off altogether if you prefer. This matte black finish is a special one for the ESL 2912X, but we haven't stopped there in terms of improvement. We've been working for the past 5 years on improving the consistency and performance of our electrostatic panels, particularly with regard to humidity, because an electrostatic loudspeaker, the diaphragm is charged up to, the plates are charged which move the diaphragm are charged up to 5 kilovolts. And that charge, being so high in level, is very subject to changes in humidity in the room. Now, we have found ways to better isolate that charge from the outside atmosphere, and that makes the panels not only more consistent in performance, no matter what temperature or humidity is in the room, but also means that the reliability of the loudspeaker is far better than before. On top of that, we've also looked at the arrangement of the high voltage charge, the 5 kilovolt charge power supply, put it on its own PCB, separate from the PCB that handles the audio signal processing through the loudspeaker. And that also, as you can imagine, improves the performance. Plus, we've also looked at the capacitors that we're using in the speaker, and chosen a specifically high-quality polypropylene capacitor for the input capacitor to improve the detail and renditioning of the speaker. And on top of that, as if that wasn't enough, we've also improved the performance of the audio transformers. And the audio transformers transform the current output from your amplifier into the voltage that is applied to the diaphragm of the loudspeaker. And those transformers are very critical in the way that the loudspeaker performs, just as the transformers in a tube amplifier are also very critical. We're making those transformers to Peter Walker's original specification in the UK in order to make sure that we've got the ultimate performance. And that we found that extends the bandwidth of the loudspeaker, both in the bass and treble, and improves the dynamic of the loudspeaker. So overall, we have our latest improved version of Peter Walker's design, which we're very proud to introduce this summer. It'll be available June and July, and we look forward to demonstrating it to you.